Today we're looking at the Yamato, a classic battleship in World of Warships. One that I often recommend to beginners, people picking up the game, trying to get into battleships. The Japanese line is just so good for beginners because you have an awesome ship at the end. The Yamato is an excellent reward for all that grinding. And as you're playing up through the tiers, I think it's a really good experience. One where there's not a lot of dud ships. They all seem to be pretty good for their tier. And they're going to teach you a pretty standard battleship playstyle that you can use as a launching pad to enjoy some of the other lines of battleships that have a bit different gimmicks that make them play very differently. But having that baseline of the classic battleship playstyle is always going to help you in those other lines. And Yamato is awesome at tier 10. It's really just one of those ships that in every match it's going to have some good value because it's so good at long range. To talk about positioning a little bit in this game, I want you to notice on the minimap that most of the enemy team who spawned in the middle of the map is coming to this C flank. And our team is a little more evenly spread out. So I'm assuming here, especially with the focus our carrier is giving on the A flank, we're going to win the A-B flank. No problem. That would be the hope, at least, given the amount of tension it's getting. And that's why I'm turning away here. The Yamato really is a ship that excels at longer ranges. Close range, you got those weak cheeks that we can look at in port a little bit later. You don't want to play up close, especially when you can still do 34,000 damage at 23 kilometers out on that poor Moskva there. Again, really strong firepower here. Not the strongest armor, especially at closer ranges. Farther ranges, you don't have a very big superstructure, and you have a decent amount of deck armor to shatter HE and have a little bit of auto bounce. You're not going to be auto bouncing everything. Of course, there's plenty of 32 millimeters here that can be overmatched by other Yamato type ships, but it's pretty solid armor at range, and that's why I'm trying to play it more at range, especially when the enemy team is investing so heavily in this flank. So even though we're playing far back, we're going to get a ton of value. The Kerr first, caught broadside, and Yamato with the legendary or unique upgrade, yeah, we're hitting him pretty hard. I really do enjoy the Yamato a lot. So now, as we just try and pick apart the enemy team as they push in, I wanted to ask you guys a quick question today. All of last week, or most of last week, I was doing a lot of live commentary videos where I played around 3 or 4 games live, cut them up, and made some pretty interesting videos, I would say. I talk more about gameplay. You get a better idea of what's going on in my head as I'm making decisions in the game. I'm not doing these post commentaries where I can tell you exactly what happens in this game and explain why things worked out. I think the live format is really interesting. Again, long range, accuracy, Yamato. So nice. But I do think that more live format is quite interesting, and I wanted to know your opinion on it. Do you like those videos more, or do you prefer these more post commentary like I'm doing right now, where I'm watching the game back, talking to you guys about what went well, good ideas you can perform in your own games? I think both are really good, and I plan to do more of both. But again, let me know what you guys like. I have done enough of these more live games now that I think there's a reasonable understanding of what they look like, the one takes, and of course, all these Black Friday ships. So again, let me know in the comments down below what you like, or if you like both of them. I appreciate you guys watching either way. As we get back into this Yamato game, the Kerr first is a ship that really struggles at tier 10 compared to the Yamato. And this salvo, I think, is going to show you exactly why it struggles. 16,000 damage, and he's very well angled to us. Big superstructures get farmed so easily at tier 10. And that's why Yamato having a relatively small superstructure is really nice. This position looks pretty horrible, given a standard match, I would say. Playing up in C9, B9 is generally not so good on this map, especially because there's no cap out here on the 9-10 line. But it's an okay position because the enemy team is so heavily invested here. And that's what I want to point out to you. Yamato is a very flexible ship where you can play it in these traditionally pretty bad areas of the map because it has such good accuracy at range And if you play it in front of an enemy's push, the overmatch is really going to help you out on ships that are more able to bounce your shells. Specifically with GK though, you just aim for superstructure and do an absolute ton of damage. As we start to deal with the Bourgogne later on in the game, you'll see what that overmatch ability has to offer. Of course, anytime a cruiser is getting spotted, I'm always going to look for that as well. Given that we did so much damage to the Moskva early on, the Baltimore as well earlier on. Sorry, Buffalo. I forgot that that one is the tier 9. We did a lot of damage to the radar ships. It allows our Holland to play a lot more aggressive. And look at that. As a team, we are absolutely crushing this enemy push. And that's why I think this position was okay. We've done a lot of early damage that has done a really good job at dealing with the bulk of the enemy team's forces. I won't lie, another reason that I'm playing so far back is because there's a super carrier in this game. Yes, he's focused on the other flank, and we get very lucky because of that in this game. But we don't want to be dealing with carriers very often in the Yamato. Certainly we want to be positioning ourselves in a way that we can always be maneuvering, where we can line up his strikes so that they're at the least or the worst angle possible, right? So torpedo bombers, we turn into them or we force them to drop stern onto us. And any sort of dive bombers, we're looking to get them to drop our broadside. Skip bombers, of course, we definitely don't want to drop our broadside. But positioning farther back like this in the Yamato and still having this really good battle impact, we're doing a ton of damage from long range, allows us to be reasonably safe from carriers a lot of the time. Battleships that have to push in and get a little closer to the enemy team to actually get the same amount of value a Yamato would from range tend to be a lot weaker against carriers, even if your ship has better AA than Yamato, which most of the tier 10 battleships do. It's just harder when you don't have the freedom to maneuver. Of course, Bourgogne gets a very nice hit into us. You can see what happens if you miss angle in the Yamato. You take big hits pretty quickly. So Yamato being so good from range makes it quite good into this meta, reasonably good into carriers, but that doesn't mean you should be only playing it from range. I've been talking about how good it is playing at far ranges, playing basically behind spawn here this game and doing a great job of dealing with the enemy's push. You can't only play at range. You do have to push in at times. And when you do push in, make sure you're not shooting all 3 of your turrets. If you are able to shoot all 3 of your turrets, that means you're exposing your cheek, which again, I'll show you guys later in port for those of you that haven't seen it. It's a very exposed part of your citadel that even ships that don't have 32 millimeters of overmatch are able to hit if you are showing enough broadside to shoot all 3 of your guns. So I'm always going to be checking where the enemy battleship at close range is looking before I swing out to shoot my rear turret. If you're playing at closer ranges though, it's probably just better to stay bow in. 6 guns is more than enough. As you can see with overmatch there, you do absolutely devastating damage to most battleships at closer ranges. And even the ones that you can't overmatch as well, like GK, well, you just hit the superstructure. And you do a ton of damage anyway. So we're already up to 170k this game. And I decide not to shoot the Bourgogne. I think my team is going to get him. And there's a Moskva that's kind of broadside again for us. So our team takes out the Bourgogne, and I'm always looking for a nice broadside shot onto anyone. Yamato's a great ship. I really do enjoy playing this thing, and a bit of a classic beatdown in the Yamato here today, where we're sniping from range, we're dealing with the enemy's push from range, and I know I didn't do a great job of tanking for my team here. We didn't really get shot at a lot, but this particular game didn't require that of us, fortunately. So we do end this game with maybe 200k? No, not quite. Almost 200,000 damage and almost actually finished off the Moskva there. And a really, really solid result in the Yamato. And as you can see, if you're running some XP and credit boosters as well, 1,000,000 credits is pretty solid from a tier 10 game. Top score. Feels pretty good to play the Yamato, even in 2022. As for the build on the Yamato, I'm definitely going with just a basic battleship build. That's the nice thing here. So you can build up a very standard battleship commander, going for concealment, fire prevention, extra healing, basics of survivability, adrenaline rush, just trying to tank and make our ship as good as possible at staying alive and staying in the fight for those long range and long duration games. I am running main battery upgrade here. That's the unique upgrade, but I don't think you necessarily need it for the ship to feel really strong. Extra reload can be awesome given the extra overmatch that the Yamato provides over a lot of the other tier 10s, and it's still really accurate even without this unique upgrade. Concealment, I'm running propulsion mod. You notice how I was sliding back and forth when I found a position that I liked, constantly moving back forward and backwards, throwing off the enemy shells. And I tend to take that when I'm able to take basics of survivability here on the commander, as well as the fire flag. I usually want to take 2 out of the 3. The captain upgrade, the flag, or this damage control system here. 2 out of the 3 I find is enough to deal with most of the fire damage in this game. Of course, since they're percentages, you do get diminishing returns as you take more of them. So I find a little more value out of some extra maneuverability, even on something like the Yamato. You could consider the propulsion mod there and use it kind of how I did in this game, but using rudder shift can also be really, really strong given how weak this cheek is. Like I talked about, yeah, that's your Citadel right there. It's a very easy angle to hit for anyone, and if you're able to shoot your rear turret, you're exposing this. So a very vulnerable Citadel at close range. So if you're using your rudder to maneuver back and angle properly again, that can be a good use as well. Overall, I really do love playing the Yamato still. This was my very first tier 10 I got back way in 2015 when I started playing this game, and I still enjoy playing it today. So given that it's a great beginner ship, the line is awesome to go up and learn how to play battleships, and that the reward at the end, Yamato, or if you go even further to the Satsuma, it's amazing and really, really highly recommended as a tier 10 ship. So that's going to be it for today's video. Let me know what you think in the comments about Yamato. And again, let me know what you think about some of these videos. Post commentary, the live stuff. Let me know what you think. I really want to see. But other than that, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.